It may surprise you to know that embracing uncertainty, letting go of expectations, creative problem-solving skills, divergent thinking, and strategic thinking are all life skills that you learn by making abstract paintings. So I'm going to explain to you how the practice of making abstract art helps you acquire these very valuable skills. Hey everyone, welcome to Whole Artist Mastery. I'm Marianne Mitchell. What exactly is Whole Artist Mastery? Well, it's all about owning your voice, making compelling work, and knowing how you want to show up in the world as an artist. I really enjoy sharing my expertise that I've gained over the 40 years of being a professional artist, and I hope that it helps you grow as an artist. So if you like what you see, you can help the Whole Artist Mastery YouTube channel reach more artists like you if you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Many artists that I've worked with come to me because they want to learn how to make abstract art, or they feel this need to access the deeper place inside them that they feel abstract expression will help them do. And yet they're unsure about how to actually begin an abstract painting, or they're even a little bit afraid of letting go. And once they do and fall in love with the colors and marks that they've made, they're unsure about how to move forward and start to make compositional decisions. Now, once they get beyond that hurdle and they start making decisions about composition, they often get so focused on compositional decisions that they begin to lose that initial and original connection to the intuitive marks and their emotional feeling about the first couple of phases of their painting. So then it becomes this dance between trying to regain that emotional connection and continue to make the composition work until you finally reach a place where you ask yourself, how do I know if this painting is finished? Do I know that this painting finished? So believe it or not, I have just outlined all of the skills that I talked about: embracing uncertainty, letting go of expectations, creative problem solving, divergent thinking, which is really going back and forth between logic and intuitive thinking, and strategic thinking, which is about employing certain methods to get the painting to be finished. So over the years that I've been making paintings, 40 years that I've been painting and beyond that really, and the 20 years that I've been teaching, I have developed what I believe is a very simple, totally effective, very understandable way of seeing how you start from the beginning and get to the end of making an abstract painting. I call it the 4 phases. So there are many other videos that I have done in the past. There's one way back when, about 2 years ago, explaining the 4 phases, and then I've done subsequent videos about each phase. And I'm going to share with you what these phases are in just a second. But if you'd like to have some written documentation about what these phases are, I invite you to go to the Whole Artist Mastery website, enter your email, and become part of the mailing list, and you will get a free downloadable PDF, which is the Whole Artist Mastery Introductory Guide and has an outline for the 4 phases in the PDF. So I'm going to share with you what the 4 phases are, so feel free to write them down. And here we go. So the first phase, which many of you are very familiar with by now, is what I call reckless abandon. Now, this term, I came up with this term oh, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago in the middle of a classroom when people were asking me, how do you do what you do? And I said, well, I guess I start in reckless abandonment, which then later became reckless abandon. And from that point on, I started talking about, well, you really need to be in reckless abandon to start an abstract painting. And what that mentality or practice of letting go entirely, of recklessly abandoning all expectations and um, thoughts about the rest of your life and completely letting go and living into that uncertainty of having 0% expectations of what's going to come out and 100% kindness for yourself that whatever comes out, you're going to accept as opposed to be judgmental of what comes out because you are just letting it go. And so whatever happens, happens. It's a very freeing mentality. I would equate it maybe to meditation. People who meditate a lot, of which I am not one of them. I wish I was. um, Painting in the abstract realm is my form of meditation. And so being in reckless abandon is like letting go of everything. And it's the very foundation of a successful abstract painting is being in this place of total uncertainty. And I've worked with a number of people who really have a hard time letting go and embracing uncertainty. So there are various different things that I do in order to help them loosen up and let go of expectations. But it's really a practice and a great learning curve for many of us who are very concrete thinkers and need to have things all lined up and have trouble not knowing what's going to happen. So if you're one of them, then reckless abandon and letting go and just seeing what happens will be a very generative process for you. So the next phase after reckless abandon is what I call critical analysis. So what does that mean? Well, at a certain point, we naturally come to an end of recklessly abandoning with paint. And you stand back and you take a look at what you have. Now, I want to make it clear there's a big distinction between critical analysis and judgmentally criticizing what you have. So you want to make sure that you are critically analyzing, which really requires you to creatively problem solve your way through what you like, what you dislike, what might be inviting for you to keep going, to build on top of. Is there something in the painting that you really love and you want to push that? Or is there absolutely nothing that you like and you just keep going in reckless abandon? That's very different than saying, I don't like this at all. This is horrible. I can't do this. I don't know why I thought I could do this. This is really terrible. Everything's muddy. Everything's awful. There's nothing here. After I say all that, I feel pretty bad about what I've done versus the first way of thinking, which is, acknowledging maybe there's nothing here that I like. So if there's nothing here that I like, then I'm just going to keep going. And if there is something that I like, how can I build on that? What do I want to do with it? So that you're asking yourself questions that invite you to keep going in the painting as opposed to squashing your interest and feeling like there's anything to work with. Okay, so now we very quickly move into phase 3, which is what I call integration. So after you critically analyze where you want to go next or where you want to go from reckless abandon, you immediately move into this dance between your intuitive connection to the piece and your strategic problem solving way of thinking about building a composition. Okay, so if I want to focus on this area, then what has to happen around it to make it be the star of the show? And if you're wondering what I mean by that, I do have a video that talks about correlating movies and TV scripts with composition. It's really fun, so I invite you to go watch that. But anyway, the star of the show is like the focal point, and the supporting actors are all of the pieces of composition that support that focal point. So you are going back and forth between making these determined logical decisions while at the same time maintaining that intuitive breath that started in reckless abandon. Now, so often we get so, and I myself am very much like this, you get so caught up in trying to make the composition work that you lose that original breath of expression that came from that intuitive place inside you. And when this begins to happen, sometimes I'm completely unaware that it's happening until at a certain point I stand back and look and say, I don't like this anymore. Does this sound familiar? Oh my gosh, this happened with me so many times with this painting. This painting took over a year. And so if you're watching this at the end of 2024, I'm actually talking to you in mid-December of 2024. I invite you to tune in to the next Wham Wednesday, which is a free discussion for anybody around the world that you are on my mailing list. Wham Wednesday is a conversation that I have. I talk about all different aspects of a practice. And the next one, which I believe is January 21st, will be a discussion about the development of this painting with all the 57 different images. Well, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but that show you how I went from reckless abandon to where it is right now. And you are seeing right now the reckless abandon phase and the finished painting that's behind me. So that's what integration is about, and it requires you to employ your divergent thinking skills. So what is divergent thinking? Well, it's, the marrying of left brain, which is very logical and linear thinking, with right brain, which is very intuitive and conceptual and storytelling thinking. So you put those two things together and they go back and forth, and it's really, it takes time for many people to get this to work seamlessly. It certainly took me many years. And so in my mentorship programs, I really help people fast track this process so that it took me, 25 years before I really understood how this all works. And so my job is to help those working with me to make it happen more quickly. So that's the third phase, integrating your logical decision-making process with your intuitive connection of expression in your painting. Now, the last phase is what I call resolution. So what does resolution mean? Well, another way of saying resolution is, how do you know when a painting is finished? Which is a question that's very difficult for all of us to answer. So over the years, I've developed a way of looking at my work to try and answer that question. And so it's a more methodical way of thinking that helps me kind of strategize what I need to do, what's already there, And so what I'm referring to are really what I call the compositional checkpoints. And again, if you go to the Whole Artist Mastery website, put your email in and get that PDF guide for free, there is a list of what the compositional checkpoints are. So I invite you to do that as opposed to me going into all of that. There are some videos, at least one, that have to do with learning what those compositional checkpoints are. But it's like, how you look at a piece in different ways, and, top and bottom, all around, things that keep your eye where they are, things, how do you create a dynamic composition so that your eye is moving around? And then the last and most important checkpoint is throw out all the checkpoints. Checkpoint. How do you know the painting is finished? Well, it has to do with how you feel about the piece. Is it a piece that you could look at for a long time, that you really get sort of excited every time you see it, and it looks good in all different lights, and you see something different every time you look at it, kind of like reading a book, a good book, over and over, or watching a movie over and over. You hear different things every time you take in that story. Same with your painting. So there you have it. That's a combination of strategic thinking and intuitive tapping into your intuitive voice at the end of the painting. So I hope all of this has been helpful. I've given you a lot of things to chew on. And again, I think that free PDF guide will really help you understand what I'm talking about. And maybe you already know what I'm talking about. So I would love to hear your thoughts about your abstract painting process and how you start a painting and bring it to resolution. And whether these 4 phases are things that you also employ. And by the way, sometimes they're definitely not linear in succession. So you can start in reckless abandon, move into critical analysis, even get into this integration phase of going back and forth and getting to the point where, oh my gosh, this is just not working for me. And you go back to the beginning to reckless abandon. So again, if you are around in January and you are on the mailing list, you'll get a notice to join the Wham Wednesday in January of 2025, where I'll be talking about all the different back and forth and moving forward and 3 steps backwards and 1 step forward and 5 steps backwards and then 10 steps forward and then 5 steps backwards of how this painting got to be where it is. So I hope that you will join me in January of 2025. Again, I think it's January 21st. And thank you so much for listening and watching and commenting. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.